Hi, I'm Don Stanek, your Agile coach. In this segment of the listing presentation, we're covering the seller interview. This is perhaps the most important part of your listing presentation because you're trying to dial in on time frame, core motivation, and any objections that might come up earlier in the process. You want to settle a few key topics when you're trying to interview this person to identify key needs and wants. Of course, their time frame. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, what's your time frame for being out of your house? Don't say listing your house necessarily, and don't ask when do you want to sell your house. What is your goal for being out of this house and into your next house? If we had to put a date on a calendar, what is the ideal situation for you? What's the ultimate perfect date for you to be set up in your next home or in your next living situation? I want to be really clear and really drill down into this. I also want to understand what are all the contributing factors to them casting this timeline. If I don't have a lot of clarity in this spot, I'm going to have a problem when it comes time to negotiating a great price and terms and making sure this person is going to meet their successful goals in terms of transitioning into the next property or wherever they're going. What's your timeline? Seller interview, timeline. What's driving the timeline, and what are those key factors? One of the things I want to cover at this time, ask them right out front, is had you considered keeping your home and maybe remodeling it or outfitting it to better meet your needs? Maybe you want to put an addition on your house. Had you considered keeping the property maybe as an investment? Now, I'm a listing agent, I'm trying to get a listing. Why am I bringing this up? Am I like trying to talk myself out of a commission? No. What I'm trying to do is establish value, and I have value, and I want to ask this person, what is really going on here? What do you really hope to achieve? And if their ultimate goal maybe is not in alignment with selling the house, but they're just going to try to sell the house to see what happens, but if they're focused on plan B, well, in the back of my head, if it doesn't sell, I'll turn it into a rental property, or, yeah, if we don't get our price, then, we'll do that addition, or maybe we should just remodel the kitchen and stay, or kids are off to college now, maybe we could take that extra room and repurpose it into something that we'd really enjoy. You got to flush this stuff out in the seller interview. If not, you're going to find yourself in an awkward spot going forward because you're going to find some sort of a conflict or some sort of an objection, and you're not going to be able to overcome it. Why? Because your agenda and their agenda are no longer in alignment. So you want to ask that question up front. Now, the most important thing you have to settle during the seller interview is, what are your plans with the proceeds of the sale of the house? You're going to sell the house, you're going to get some money. What the heck are you going to do with the money? And many times, they're going to be looking for a replacement property, and they're using the proceeds of the sale for a down payment on their next purchase. This is where you have to really be clear on, are they going to be able to meet their objectives? Is the amount of money they're getting from the sale of their house, is that going to be enough money to be able to complete the transaction on their replacement property? And the replacement property that they have in their mind, not just any replacement property. You have to set good, correct expectations as a listing agent. Give someone a good, fair estimate about what their proceeds are going to be, and how much power do those proceeds command in the buyer's market. You're a seller, you're selling the property, but then you're going to be a buyer. At this point in time, if you haven't gone through my certified sales interrogator class, I would recommend that you take that class simultaneously to this class, or you complete that class before you even go forward. If you don't have a very clear understanding on the sort of questions you need to ask your seller once they become a buyer in order to achieve their goal, then as an agent or a project manager, it's going to be difficult for you to transition them out of their current situation, get through the activities we need to get through today to achieve the result you want to achieve in the future. They might be holding on to an unrealistic idea of how much money they're going to be able to get out of their house, and how much impact is that going to have in their future. In fact, this is many times the case. So you might be dealing with a seller who thinks, well, I'm going to sell the house and pay off all my debt, pay off the student loans, and give a gift to my grandkids, pay off the car, and probably buy a bigger house. Well, that sounds great, but it's kind of fantasy and it doesn't mathematically add up. Your job as a sales professional is to understand what the goal is with the proceeds of the sale of the house and keep your seller realistic in that you're going to get this much money probably from the sale of your house. When you take that money and you apply it to these things, which of those things is most important for you to settle first? Because the budget has to be in alignment with basic math, basic kind of common sense. And your job as a project manager is to help them see, yes, it is achievable under these circumstances, or it's not achievable given all the additional plans you have for the money. And it's important to be able to understand this up front, because otherwise you might find yourself in a position where your seller is just stuck in a price. They're stuck in a number and they will not move off that number. But that number has no context around it. Your job as a professional is to add context around that number. Will the sale of the property satisfy the problem or capture the opportunity that they're going for in the future? Your ability to identify this and articulate it and condense it down into a simple story is the difference between being an average sales professional and then just being a brilliant sales and listing agent. Is their vision realistic with the money that you can possibly achieve from high market value in the sale of the house today? Is it going to satisfy their problem? Is it going to help them promote their dream of acquisition? Understanding these things are key to being able to price the home correctly in the market and not have fantasy pricing or fantasy thinking about the price, the time frame, or any of the other factors when it comes to selling the house. Now, replacement property is probably going to be 80 or 90% of the people that you're dealing with. However, they might be selling an investment property to get another investment. They might be selling an investment property to fund something else. Your job as a professional is to identify that and make sure you have clarity on it before you go forward. Now, the next set of questions that you need to ask your seller at this time have to do with behavior and expectations as an agent. They may not have purchased a house in 20 years, and so maybe they haven't sold a house in 20 years. Maybe it's been a long time since they transacted or interacted with a realtor. You need to understand what their experience past is and how you're going to add some additional context around that so that you might uncover some additional things that you need to do or be aware of. Most importantly, the sort of question I want you to ask at this point is this, and that is, Mr. Seller, when it comes to hiring a broker, hiring a realtor, what do you think they should be doing in order to earn their commission? Very important. What I'm trying to set up for is defending my commission at some point in the future. So, Mr. Seller, when it comes to hiring an agent, what do you think that they should do really in order to earn their commission, right? Okay, it's a great question. They might think about it and say, well, I think you should do this and that and this and that. And I'm like, okay, great. So in our opinion, in order for me to earn my commission, I think what I really need to be doing is bringing you as many buyers as I possibly can. Bringing you as many buyers as I possibly can. In order for me to earn my commission, I think that bringing as many buyers to you as I can would probably satisfy that. I mean, wouldn't that make sense? Yeah, I think that would make sense. Because we get a bunch of people interested in your home, and we attract all these people, and maybe there's a little bit of competition, there's offer, counteroffer, maybe the price goes up. We get into a little bidding war. I want you to make sure that you use that word, those wordings, that terminology. However you ultimately phrase the question with your own vocabulary, what you want to do is make sure you throw the word commission in there. When it comes to hiring an agent, what do you think that agent should be doing in order to earn their commission? Bring a lot of buyers, right? Yeah, bring a lot of buyers. Semi-rhetorical question, because I already have a preconceived answer in mind. They might stumble with it for a little bit. In order for me to earn my commission, I feel like I need to bring you as many buyers as I possibly can. Great. So in the same family of questions, I want you to say this question. I want you to ask this question next. I want you to say, and also when it comes to hiring an agency or a broker like myself, do you think that we should pay for some of your advertising? Do you think that we should help with some of the cost of your advertising? Now, who the heck is going to say no to that? Well, yeah, of course, I think you should probably pay for some of my advertising. Now, Is that normal? Maybe it is and maybe it isn't, but I'll tell you this, a lot of agents avoid that discussion altogether. And my question as a human being, as a person on the planet, if you're going to sell my house, how are you going to achieve this maximum exposure? You're just going to put it in the MLS? Well, where's the value in that? Any agent's going to put it in the MLS, but what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to pay for some of your advertising, and I'm going to take some of the commission that you're paying me to make sure that we get success with getting high value on your house. So some of the money you're paying me is going to go to that purpose. Really important. Why am I doing all this? I'm not doing it to create a problem. I'm not doing it to argue about commission, but I'm planting seeds in case I have to defend my commission at some point in the future. Remember the big three? What's my home going to sell for? How long is it going to take? What do you charge for your services? I'm planting some seeds in case I have to defend my commission. And it's not in case. High likelihood you're going to have to defend your commission. So make sure that when you get to that place that you've planted these seeds in the seller interview. Don't take shortcuts by not doing this. Go through it and just make it very matter of fact, very logical. You're not negotiating a commission. All you're doing is asking a simple question. When it comes to hiring an agent, see what's your expectation in terms, like, what do they do to earn the commission? They're bringing a lot of buyers, right? Yeah, that's right. Oh, and also, when you hire that agency, do you think that they should pay, share some of the commission and cover some of the expenses of advertising? Now, the last area that you need to probe a little bit deeper in to get some understanding around your seller is, are they interviewing any other realtors before they make a decision to list their home? This is really important. I know that recent numbers came out, and I think it's something like 79 or 78% of people who use a realtor didn't interview any other realtors before they made a choice to go forward. But the truth of the matter is, you could be in competition with somebody else for this listing. Now, you might be the first person to present, the last person to present, or maybe that other person is in some other kind of relationship with the seller. Maybe it's a family member or a brother-in-law. Does this mean you're out of contention to get the listing? Absolutely not, far from it. But what you want to do is understand, are they looking at another possible solution to list their home? And if so, how do they know this agent? How do they know this agent? And what you want to be keeping in the back of your head is, if you know this other agent or if you don't know this other agent, you're going to be able to at least get some sort of information about this person. This person works in a branch or works in some kind of an office. It might be a franchise office, it might be a boutique, it might be a discount brokerage, it might be all the above. This person's past production might mean that they're mostly just a buyer agent, and 80% of their business is buyer agent, and they don't really take that many listings. And it's many times the case when you talk to someone about listing their home, they'll say, well, Jim did sell us the house 20 years ago, and so we were just thinking about talking to Jim, and maybe he can sell it. So you're not going to launch into an argument of why Jim's terrible and why you're great, but what you are going to do is take note of the fact that he's a buyer's agent 20 years ago, and maybe he works for a franchise, right? Maybe he works for the one with the big balloon, the one, or one of the other ones. And so you're going to be able to use this in our next section. When I go into our next section, we're going to start talking about the differences between agents and agencies and how I'm going to be able to leverage my personal background and my agency background to best maximize the value of their house and to achieve much better results than any other agent. The reason why this is so key is, if it's a family member, you can't launch some sort of personal attack on another agent that you don't know or haven't met. Or maybe you do know them and they're a disaster and you'd love to attack them personally, but you can't. You really shouldn't. It's not professional. But what you can do is maybe point out some of the challenges that person might have within the brokerage or the agency that they've decided they want to affiliate with. Don't skip over this. It's absolutely essential that you understand, if you have competition, who the competition is, what the relationship is with the seller, and is this person possibly going to snatch your listing before you get it?